a lot of people come to me and they'll ask, how did you do it, or how should I do it, type of thing. Um, that classic saying, like, there's a million ways to climb Mount Fuji. I think I maybe even said that in the last interview. I don't know. But yeah, it's all different for everybody. So I didn't necessarily have a plan. I
Yeah.
really wasn't sure exactly how I was going to make this all happen for me. But I was determined, and I was very interested in learning to tattoo. So I kind of feel like I did it in a matter of baby steps, sort of like creeping towards like my dream, and that's kind of how it naturally like fell into place for me. I suppose, I'm interested in tattooing. I think that's kind of the only way to go about it. Some kids kind of feel like maybe they have to hide that or something, but in actuality, I think like being straightforward is kind of it's either gonna work out for you or it's not. And luckily, everyone was very supportive. I didn't have a formal apprenticeship, but I had a lot of mentors that actually like helped me along the way that I feel really lucky to have had.
Why do you think some kids don't want to just say up front that they want to get interested, learn tattooing?
There's the industry has changed a lot actually at this point. So a lot of this stuff is kind of based on my experience and when I was sort of coming in. A lot of shops aren't interested in taking on apprentices. So there's sort of like, if you're coming into a space and you're basically like, hey, I'm trying to learn, like most places are going to say no. So, it's a touchy subject where like a lot of times maybe, you just kind of got to find that right path. I always encourage people. I say, hey, if you're interested, start out as a shop guy. You got to start from the bottom and kind of like crawl your way up and try to learn everything you can. And
The shop guy being just the guy who's like sweeping up or helping out around the shop, but he's not really drawing. He's not really tattooing people. He's not.
Yeah,
really...
not an apprentice, not an artist. Just kind of like just coming in as like a manager,
Okay.
like a shop assistant. So you're there to like help tattooers. You're there to kind of like, keep the shop clean and tidy and running well.
How many years you did that for?
I don't know. I think like 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, at least 4.
The whole time though, you were kind of thinking that you wanna actually learn how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I was patient though. I wasn't in a rush. I knew that like, I would figure it out. And, I was simultaneously like, trying to just familiarize myself with the industry rather than like work on the like technical aspects of actually tattooing at that time.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. It's kind of a long time, that I don't know if that's not a long time for people who are working as the shop guy who eventually transitioned, but it's like the university, you know what I mean? It's like you're earning your stripes type of thing so that you even get a shot. I get the sense, I got no tattoos. I don't know too much about tattooing. But I do have respect for people who commit to what they're doing and who just do things for themselves. So how did you get to the point where you decided that you wanted to, because you started tattooing, right? And then you were working at shops, and eventually you got to the point where you decided that you wanted to open up your own space, which is where we're sitting in now. When did you start, I guess, first even formulating the idea of wanting to do that?
So, it really kind of materialized sort of out of nowhere. I definitely had an idea that I was going to do something at some point. The last shop I worked at, I was there for many years, almost 10 years. I was there for 9 years. So I was starting to the wheels start spinning. Are you going to do your own thing? Are you going to continue to work here? Maybe try to get some kind of partnership? Are you going to take this route, which is sort of what ended up unfolding for me. But for me, this all developed like under COVID. There was a moment where I just kind of was like, all right, I wasn't exactly sure where I was going to head, but I didn't really want to be reliant on somebody else. So I feel fortunate enough that like I was able to do this, and that I've been here almost 5 years now, so this has been a crazy experience. But yeah, I didn't envision private studio necessarily, but it actually seemed to be the best option for me at that time. I was looking for something that was like low overhead. I wasn't gonna just try to open up a shop at a point when like everything was uncertain. So yeah, this worked out like amazingly. So I'm very happy about it.
Well, that's another thing I was going to ask you is if you see this as your final form. Do you see a private practice as your final form?
Um, no, not necessarily. I've had dreams of opening a shop at from time to time, but I've also seen a lot of people struggle with that, and the dynamics of having a lot of people involved in one space, and I kind of really prefer this situation for now. Um, no, I'd like to think I'm in a period of growth right now where like I'm always continuing to kind of try to reach further, do something new, build some new skills, develop new relationships. So no, I don't know what's next. Sometimes I think about if I ever moved or something, what would I do? I'd probably do something similar
Mm-hmm.
and like start to kind of explore like other interests, as well as like continue to tattoo as long as possible. So, I'm very lucky to have tattooing. I love it,
Yeah.
and I'm fortunate to be able to do what I do.
How did you learn to? Because I mean, you're managing a business yourself, and you're kind of like also self-promoting, and everything falls under you. To be able to do this thing, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of ingenuity. It's a lot of creativity, and it's a lot of, you're gonna have to push yourself because no one's gonna come knocking on your door pushing you for you. It's just gonna be you doing it for yourself. So, how did you learn how to do this thing? How did you learn how to get clients and keep them coming and promote yourself, get the space, get the licenses, and do all the things that people don't see behind as far as maybe the media goes?
Yeah, it's just kind of like trial and error, just like anything else. A lot of things I had to do by just by sheer necessity and taking chances and sort of exploring options. The other thing is you learn from others,
Yeah.
observing what others are doing in terms of what you think is working and what you think is not. And then sort of that's a good editing tool. So like if I'm watching other artists, my peers and everyone's trying new things all the time. So, if you surround yourself with hardworking people, you're able to kind of pick up on some of those habits, and a lot of that stuff kind of then gets applied to like your own practice. But essentially, I think it's just taking chances, trying different things. One thing might work 1 year, and then the next year there's something else you need to do. But that's exciting. Honestly, if this business was completely straightforward, it might be too boring for me, and I would probably choose to do something else.
Yeah.
The personal challenge is something I really like enjoy, and it's tough at times, but at the same time, without these opportunities to kind of claw your way through it, then you tend to then what is it, then what's the point in this? So
Yeah. Do you ever? How do you deal with the fear of the uncertainty when it comes to doing something like this? Like if the economy is going up or down, if New York's in a state of whatever, and you're not really sure what's going to happen, or
sure.
it seems like, let's say, people just have less money, so the non-essentials are the first to go or whatever.
Mhm.
How do you deal with that fear? Seeing as like I'm kind of in the same boat to an extent where like I kind of think about that a lot, and the things that and like just kind of like not really having a backup plan other than this, this is what you're doing, and this is what you're going to do until the boat sinks, kind of thing. At least that's how I feel. So that brings a lot of stress if you see things not working out for you the way that you want. Have you ever felt that?
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of ups and downs. So I'm lucky enough that I've been involved in tattooing long enough to have seen some of those fluctuations. So that sort of gives you the confidence that like things are gonna like pick up again. But also you do need to pivot. You need to try to do new things and take new chances, like we were just talking about, in terms of like self promotion and sort of like reaching out to the people that are in your personal network and maximizing your opportunities. Um, I tended to feel like that's I'm really lucky to be in New York City and to have a huge network of friends that support me and that I in turn support them. And I feel like without that, I probably wouldn't have the level of security that I feel based around this experience. Um, but as far as kind of like the doubt and stuff, that comes and goes. I'd like to believe if you're doing your best, then things are going to work out for you. So, you know, as long as you're trying to kind of continue to like upgrade your life and you have goals, then I don't see why you're not going to like continue to succeed, even if it's through some hardships.
Yeah, yeah. You were saying in one interview that you don't really see too much of a similarity between graffiti and between tattooing. A lot of people like put the two and two together, kind of just because I think that a lot of writers end up doing that. But you were saying that like one of the similarities that you do see is just kind of being able to build your own life, and like set up your own little thing. Uh, how do you feel about graffiti now? Do you feel like it's still very prevalent in your life, or you're kind of stepping into the next chapter? How do you feel about it? Because I know like some people will stop even going by their graffiti name.
Sure.
But you seem to embrace it, and yeah, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm proud of what I accomplished. So I guess I feel I've had ups and downs with that too. Sometimes I feel like, you know, it's good to step back. And you know, the hardest transition for me was actually when I was learning to tattoo, was when I was kind of at the height of my like graffiti career. So I had to kind of make some sacrifices that I, like didn't feel super comfortable. You know, like I was kind of fighting to stay involved, but I was also like needed to like learn a new skill and sort of build my life up. So in terms of graffiti now, I still enjoy it. I still look at it. I still think about it. I still plot and ponder. Some of my closest friends are writers. I mean, a lot of them. So I feel like I'm still involved. You know,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm missing out.
You got a lot of trucks running.
Yeah, I do my best. I do my best to like stay active. You know, when I travel, I like to paint. You know, which feels good. So, but it's not like this thing that's like completely all encompassing or like fully you know, obsessed with. I'm sort of like I'm lucky to have like several interests that like kind of I can bounce back and forth from. When I feel like doing graffiti, I link up with a friend and I do graffiti. When I feel like doing something else, you know, like there is, I mean, this reminds me of kind of what you mentioned. There's a lot of freedom in this. You know, graffiti is a choice. You choose to be involved or not. So, you know, as long as you like maintain good standing and like continue to try to like push yourself, then I don't see why you can't like stay involved.
Yeah. Do you think that it's because of writing and you spending a lot of your earlier years bombing that you came across tattooing?
No, but there's a big intersection, and like I said in the beginning of this, there's just a lot of lifestyle kind of crossover, like the travel, the extensive network, the kind of like the social aspect, you know. A lot of kids don't realize this, but if you know, if you're not social, that's like a big portion of your business. I still continue to try to like get out there, support friends, go to shows, go to events, do things when I can. It's important to be one of those people because it comes back to you. And kind of the more that like I put myself out there, the more you stay involved in your community and stay relevant. So yeah, I know there's a lot of young tattooers that struggle because they're like hyper dependent on like things like Instagram and stuff. But it's like if you live in a big city, you know, there's no reason why you shouldn't be participating. Like otherwise, why live here?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's actually crazy how many people are doing things in New York and the amount of opportunities that it creates, and everyone's essentially in this weird way trying to make work, trying to make stuff happen, trying to do things in their own way. And yeah, I think you're right. I think that socialization is vital, not even just for business, but just for being a human and having the ability to do things. Like for a large part of my life, I was extremely antisocial, meaning I just like didn't talk to a lot of people, and I thought that that was like the way to do it or whatever.
Sure.
And then as time passed, I started to realize, nah, it's not the way to do it, and you actually limit yourself immensely by doing that. And yeah, I think that that's true.
You don't need to kick it with everybody, especially if people are not going down the path that you want to go down. Those are choices you have to make to sort of like carve your way. And that's like something that like took me a long time to learn. I feel like it comes with time, but it is important, you know, to align yourself with people you admire, people that have the same, you know, outlook on life and morals, and you want to like kind of continue to like you know, you want to work towards that. That's how you got to do it. I feel if you know, I'm you know, I'm also not judgmental. People want to live a wild life. Like I'm happy for them. Like go off. It's just I'm at a point where sometimes, you know, I make a choice to go in and out of that rather than, you know, stay on that path.
Yeah. What's your daily routine like in terms of street dreams and making the wheels keep turning?
Lately, my day to day is a lot of it has to do with kind of like going with the flow, kind of being in like a flow state kind of thing. Not struggling to like make anything that feels forced happen, but continuing to like seek out things that I enjoy and nurture relationships. So, I mean, what's the point of doing something like this on your own without like being able to kind of guide your own ship? It's a challenge, but I think if you're kind of like, we need to not be so hard on ourselves. You know, there were times when I would like beat myself up for not accomplishing certain things. Now I'm kind of like, I know I'm productive and I work hard at what I do. So that confidence alone kind of like drives me to sometimes enjoy the calm moments.
Do you feel like you've become more independent of social media, so you don't necessarily need it as much to promote yourself as an artist, or the I guess the people that you're working with, you know, in real life, and your actual society is your group of people that are bringing in work and that's helping create projects and stuff like that? Do you think that you've become less dependent on social media? Not that you were ever like dependent, but we all are to some extent.
No, we are. I mean, there's times when I think if I wasn't a tattooer, I don't even think I would have an Instagram account. I'd be like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but because I do have my own business and I use that as a strong contact point with a lot of my peers. I enjoy it. You know, like it gives me mixed emotions. Sometimes I'm like, this shit is crazy toxic and like, what a waste of time. And then other times it's super rewarding and a lot of stuff kind of develops. But I do think we need to kind of focus on building opportunities for yourself beyond that, because as we know, like every few years things change. So I feel like we're on the cusp of maybe that becoming irrelevant. And
What,
new.
Instagram?
Yeah, I think it's possible, right? Like
It's
hard
possible.
to imagine.
It's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day, and we were talking about how integral it is into our lives and everything we do. And I feel like, especially as people who are, if you're like self-employed, that's like your contact list. That's like your news. That's like fucking who knows who. Like you, it's actually insane what a tool it is. Maybe it wasn't even, maybe it was or wasn't even intended for that. But it's like,
I think it evolved to that point. Yeah.